Hello and thank you for joining us on Media Hub. I'm your host, Dondi Sanchez, and today's episode is named The Next Big Thing. Our guests are true rising stars in the industry, ready to impart invaluable insights on what it takes to propel your career forward. So without delaying any further, let's dive right in and uncover the secrets to success. Hey Gabe, how you doing?
How you doing, Dondi? What's going on?
Good, good. Hey, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us and to do this interview. I know you've been busy, and I thought it would be great to have you on because you are a rising star. I've been watching your career go, and I've been impressed. And I think you have a lot of valuable things to say to our viewers about how to advance their career. So I know you, but if you could just tell the viewers, just tell a little bit about yourself. Tell them how long you've been in the industry, and you are director of photography. Tell them certain types of products that you've worked on lately.
Yeah. So, my name's Gabriel Davis. Obviously, I'm a freelance cinematographer, camera operator. I have my own company that's been growing through the pandemic, and I work in a vast pool of work. It can be E&G, it can be videography, and then there's cinematography. But I tend to dabble in a little bit of all of them, as long as everything is right, the client's right, the product is right. I tend to work it. So I'm probably a multi-tool, not a tool, but someone who can get it all done. But my main focus is in cinema, and I have at the end of this year will be my 10th year in the industry.
Wow, your 10th year in the industry. So with that being said, in your 10th year in your industry, what year did you pivot from, let's say, you're being a DP? I'm going to ask you what path you took to become a DP, right? But when
Mhm.
did it pivot that you started doing DP jobs? What year?
I would say uh, I would say 2019, 2020 is when the DP jobs started to come in heavily. And at that time, there was always opportunities, there were always inquiries, but being mentally ready, physically ready, equipment wise, and socially was different because you can know the knowledge, but dealing with the client and the product and the agency and the social part of it and the politics is another part. So I would say that I was ready and was going at about 2020,
Wow, so you're
2019.
saying
Let's say
like
2019, 2020.
about 8 years in is when it started. You were really being the DP at certain things. Very, very cool, man.
Correct.
That's so good because
Before,
yeah. Go ahead.
prior, there'd be DP for a short film or DP for this job or something that a friend needs. Can you light it and DP it? But actually DPing for a known brand corporation, national, that came later.
But you got your foot wet by doing those things. Like, don't disregard all those jobs because that prepared you to
Yeah,
land the bigger jobs, right? And that's what we need to do, right?
yeah,
I don't want people to
correct.
think
Yeah,
like, oh, right
absolutely.
out of school, you're going to be landing jobs with Adidas or other name brands because it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
let me ask you this. Let's talk about your path. What path did you take to become a DP? Tell me what you did. Because did you intern out of school?
Yes. So I graduated in late 2012 at Full Sail University, and I started my internship at Adrenaline Films in Orlando in 2013. And that internship started to slowly extend. And one day I found myself in the office, and they had offered me a job as an apprentice, and I apprenticed there for a year, and I worked under a couple of DPs that worked for Survivor, the ones that actually started the first seasons of it. And at Adrenaline, they were a multi-service production company. So we did a mix of E&G work, cinema work, commercial work, news work, social. It was a little bit of everything. And that's what helped ground me. That helped me understand, reality is going to be a lot more wear and tear than some of these corporate interview jobs. But it gave me an understanding of how each different job works, like what the requirements are, what's expected of you, and how to carry yourself and manage in all the other ones.
And you being
So I
with
did do the route
adrenaline,
of
go ahead.
so I did do the classic route of college, internship, hire.
Okay. And
But 1 year, I stayed for 1 year, and because as you know, when in the film industry, whether you're staffed or freelance, you're going to work with someone. This person might be hired from this agency. This person might be freelance. That everyone has a different em- occupational status, but we'll all still see each other on a regular basis. But I did the traditional, like I said, school, internship, job, and then freelance.
would you recommend that same path for others?
The path is probably chosen by the individual that you are. If you're coming out of school, the best thing to do is intern. The greatest thing to do is intern. You'll learn everything that you learned in school, and then some, but firsthand. And if you're worth your weight, a job will be offered to you in some capacity. Maybe not from the company that you're interning from, but maybe from one of the clients that you work with or somebody that you meet along the line. But
Right.
the experience that you get from internships is invaluable. Um,
Right.
I would almost say if I could, I would have just interned instead of going to school. But yes, I highly recommend internship.
That's interesting that you say that because you got real life experience. That's probably why you're just like, you know what? Let me just forget the school part. Let me just learn everything from here because I believe, yeah, school is just to get you in the door entry level. You're going to learn more 30 days out of the first 30 days out of school than you are the whole time you're in school. Would you agree with that?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
right.
and lessons
So,
lessons that aren't in books as well.
right. But here's the thing is like, do you think you would have got the internship without going to school?
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I think going to school proves that you have the motivation, the initiative, the drive, the passion, and not for nothing. Anybody who's gone to school has done the fast for the financial aid. All of the hurdles and hoops that stop you from getting in. So if someone who's gone through the schooling does show, they do offer a level of resilience. Like I know you've been through it.
Right. Right. Okay. So, um, after you did all your apprentice and your internship and everything, how did you know what career path you wanted to do? Like, was it during your internship? Like, when it was like, because I know when, like, for me, when I went to school, which is long, long, long time ago, right? I wanted actually to be an editor. And then as I went through school and took all the different courses, it kept changing and it kept changing and it kept changing. By the time I got out of school, believe it or not, like a lot of people don't say I want to be a grip. And I wanted to be a grip, believe it or not. Thank God I didn't really choose that way. It didn't really work for me, but I actually did because I love being on set. You know, so one
Yeah.
for you. When did you figure out? Okay, this is the path I want to take.
Um, I would say I'm still on that path. Actually, I'm
Really?
actually still on that path. Yes, yes. I initially went into film school wanting to write, and that's my main passion is writing, storytelling, emotion, tone, pace, tempo, character arc, story arc, being able to convey a story and have an emotional connection and a change, whether it be a
Yeah.
documentary or a film. But everybody at some point in time has watched something on TV and has said like, you know what, I'm going to change my life, or like, you know what, I'm going to do better, or it's had some sort of effect on you, and
Yeah.
that's what I wanted for myself as a writer. So when I got into film school, I was in the Full Sail film program, and they taught everything: writing, lighting, camera, makeup. Ironically, makeup was my highest grade in class. I don't care about it. Didn't didn't I thought that I was doing bad, so I started doing extra credit, and I
Right.
had I didn't miss any questions on a test or an exam or anything, and then I think I had 105 by the time I'd finished. But
Wow.
right, I would leave class like taking makeup off of my face, but it took me to be exposed to other areas like learning art department and whatnot. And as a writer, when I started to learn in Full Sail, like, well, the director's going to take your script and they're going to rewrite it, and the producers are going to rewrite it. And I was like, no, well, I want to be a part of that. And then I was like, oh, I want to be a director. And then, well,
Okay.
the DP is going to decide the angles, and I'm like, well, no. And then I just kind of realized like maybe I'm not as collaborative as I thought, and I'm a control freak, but as I started to learn each one of these each aspect of film and the collaborative process, I started to
Yeah.
develop a passion for aesthetics, like visuals, like
Yeah.
contrast. And not only with writing, you use words to paint sentences, but with lighting, I mean, with cinematography, you use lights and shadows and color to craft emotion. And
Hmm.
once I understood it, I gained just such a passion and love for aesthetics and cinematography. And I had no idea that it was the same as writing, but just a different set of tools.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's still developing in me. I still want to be a writer, but I'm finding out as I'm being exposed to other positions in higher places that ultimately I would just love to write, direct, and DP.
Well, just think about it. Your path is actually molding you to be a director, because you could be a writer director, you know what I mean, but you're going to be a very
Mhm.
well-rounded director, because like you said, for me, I think there's two types of directors. There's directors that come from acting, and they know how to get the
Mhm.
most out of the actor. They know how to get the emotion they want out of the actor, but then
Emotion.
they depend on the gaffer and the DP to make sure that the visual is there. They really don't know how to do it, but they depend on them. And then you have the other director that has all the technical background, and they know how to make it happen, And they might have maybe an AD or somebody that knows how to work with the actors, right? So I think it's just molding you to become a phenomenal director at some point, writer slash director, So then you will do your own projects and stuff, So I mean that'll come. Trust me. I mean, I always like every time I had a goal, I always want to
Mhm.
do an original programming. I always want to. That was like one of my main things: do original programming through my company. Because I've done plenty of other stuff, but I always want to do original programming. And this project here, what we're doing here, this interview, is actually be turned into a passion project for me. Believe it or not, when I came up with the ideas and I
Nice.
was talking to the guys, I was like, because it's me pouring into the next generation, of filmmakers or people in TV or just people in production, and I really
Mhm.
enjoy this talking. And it actually started out because I was at Full Sail, and I was part of the board, and my favorite part is meeting the students, believe it or not, and talking to them. I could care less, really. I mean, yeah, I do my board part and everything. It's all good, but my favorite part is talking to the students. Seriously. So and then I was like, you know what? We should do something like this, and that's how this came all about. But here's
Mhm.
my next thing. So DP, right? So right now, let's say
Mhm.
that's your path and that's what you're choosing, right? But how did you get your first camera job as a DP? Like what? How did you land it?
It was actually a friend. It was actually a friend. DP was on a. It was for Adidas, and they were doing a travel campaign. I forget which campaign it was, but this was in 2019, pre pandemic, and the DP that was supposed to travel for Florida, I don't know what happened, but they needed to hire a new DP, and the first AD that they already had on board was somebody who I had grown with from internship as a PA. We had grown from PAs, and she would second AD, and by the time she was second ADing, I was first ACing, and then when she was ADing, I was operating a bit, and she threw me, she climbed the ladder higher first, and she threw me a bone, and I got a job with Adidas, and after that, I stayed on that campaign, and I did about six or seven jobs for them after that. Like, but the catalyst like I thank God for that relationship and that friend. She's amazing. She's amazing. And just for connecting us, and we've actually worked together with Adidas after that, with the same ad agency. Um, but relationships can expand. They definitely, just that one person. We were PAs. Getting waters, parking cars, and we always had each other's back. We had a good time. We shared jobs with each other. If I couldn't do a PA job and she could do it, or vice versa, we would do that. And usually that stops when you're in different departments, but one hand washes the other. And like if I knew any AD jobs, I would throw her name, and she did the same, and it just led to more. It was a
See,
snowball
that's
effect.
why relationships are so important in this industry. Never burn any bridges. Always have a good attitude. It amazes me how everybody really says the same thing. You need to have a good attitude, be humble, treat people right. You know what I mean? That everybody that
Hmm.
we've interviewed has said the same thing. And about that's what you need in this industry is have a great attitude. Have a great attitude. So you mentioned all these positions that you were in, right? So from PA, AC, and all that. How long did it take you to transition from one to the other? Did it take years, months? How long did you stay in each position?
I would say it took years. I was always kind of in a hybrid situation. When I left Adrenaline Films, I left a full-fledged production company that had lights, cameras, equipment, and I left as a separate entity. No gear, no rentals, no anything. But it was a little embarrassing in the beginning because I had to start PAing, and I did know people in the industry that were like, "Hey, you were an operator at Adrenaline." So I had to start over, and
Wow.
I started working with a production coordinator who got me on a job. And when we got on the job, they rented space at Adrenaline, and they realized I'd worked there and I knew everything already. So they allowed me to drive the camera truck, and I was the camera PA. So I was a PA, a camera PA for about a year and a half, and then that became camera PA second AC for about another 2 years, and then that became another octave of second AC, first AC for about 2 years, and then operator AC jobs for about 2 years, and then camera operator DP jobs. And now that things are slowing, I was kind of moving into director DP, but I'm still in camera operator DP. So it seemed like it took about 2 to 3 years in each step. But within all of those years, sometimes I would take a step back, and if I was particularly an operator, if I needed to, and I got a call from somebody I worked with, somebody I trust, somebody I owe favors, I'd AC for them, all day, rent gear, whatever it is. But I think about 2 to 3 years was my journey. But depending on the particular individual, it can be a lot faster. It can be faster.
Yeah. What are some of the experiences or challenges that some freelancers face in the industry? What would you say those are, and how could they overcome them?
My biggest challenge, man, I think my biggest challenge was branding myself and learning to become a leader, because I had worked in different avenues: reality, commercial, film, doc, and
Yeah.
I'd worked under Emmy award winning DPs, famous DPs, local TPs, really great people, and I always made sure that I learned something from each one, and you
Yeah.
kind of like steal a technique or a practice or you know something that they do to add to your repertoire of tools.
Yeah.
And for me, in the beginning, the hardest thing was learning to lead. I was used to being a support crew member. But when it came time to, start working as a DP, I got too comfortable and like, all right, press the camera and okay, point it here, point it there. I found myself a little like, oh, now I can be the creative. Like now it's up to me. So just being able to take lead creatively and collaborate
Mm-hmm.
and leading a crew, like leading, an AC, second AC, a gaffer. And I think the hardest part of that for me was probably my nerves. But when you work with people, and you hire people that you trust, they're there to support you. And once I did jump in the pool, I was fine. But it was
Yeah.
just the initial steps, hesitancy. If you're hesitant, then don't go. Don't go. Wait until you're ready. When a car's at a stop sign and they're hesitant to go and they're creeping up and forward, and that's dangerous. That's not the way to do it.
Yeah. It's funny that you said you were nervous because I was going to ask you if you were nervous, and I'm sure you were. You probably didn't sleep that night before that job.
No, no, I didn't. I still don't. I still to this day still get nervous. Still sometimes stay up too late, and even before I leave the house to get to the job, I'm like, all right, the batteries, the tripod, the memory card. There's so many things that can go wrong in a production. So, you know,
Yep.
yeah, it still gets me.
And listen, 30 years in, 30 plus years in, I still get nervous. So I'm sad to say it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away.
Oh
And
God.
I think it's good a little bit because it keeps you on your toes on the shoot.
Yeah.
Keeps you on the toes on the shoot. But you said something that was very good. Is as long as you have a good supportive crew around, if you have the right people surrounding you, it'll go much smoother for you. Much smoother for you.
Yes. Oh yeah.
All right, so here's my next question. Uh, what are some effective strategies for finding work and securing projects as a freelancer or as a company like you have for yourself? How do you go about it?
I think the best way to secure work is to make yourself and your talents and your abilities, make them known, make them aware. And the best thing to do is to brand yourself and have your brand pristine, clean, and advertise. And whether that be social media or a website. And there's probably some more options that I'm not thinking of, but the best way to do that, I believe, is to show people that you're working,
Mm-hmm.
show people your work,
Mm-hmm.
which I tend to be self conscious about my work. I don't post most of it. I should take my own advice, but show your work, show
Right.
your value, because outside of that, all you are is a personality that people are going to see for face value. When they
Yeah.
see what you can bring to the table, then they can associate, value with your face. So I would
Right.
say, to market yourself and
Right.
network. Not only shake hands and pass off business cards, but show what you can do, show what you can bring to the table, and
Mm-hmm.
be willing to support. Be willing to support. Um, Sometimes if you want a job with a particular client, like myself as a DP, I would like to only take DP jobs and get rentals, but I'm fine with taking camera operating jobs and working with and under other DPs.
Yeah.
So the
So as
networking, I would say networking on
uh
social media.
for sure, I think networking is very, very important, especially in branding yourself, like you said, and showing, doing posts. Definitely have a website, especially if you're working with bigger production companies or agencies. They're gonna want to see a website. One that makes you look legit. You know what I mean? They're
Demo
gonna
reel
want to see
too.
your work. What was that?
The demo reel. The demo.
For sure, you gotta have it. You can't just say this is what I do and not have anything to show for it. There's not one. I mean,
Yeah.
I still get people saying, send me your resume, and I'm like, I haven't done a resume in I don't know how long. You know what I mean? I used to just tell them to go to a website. But for somebody in the beginning, even moving up, you have to show these things, and you can't just
Hmm.
say, oh, here's my Vimeo page or here's my YouTube page. You present yourself. That's part of your branding. Okay, here's another one. As freelancing, right? As a freelancer,
Hmm.
you know that there's the payment schedules are always all over the place. You have to wait 30 days, 40 days, sometimes 60 days. It all depends on what clients that you have and what clients you choose to work with, right? But what tips do you have for budgeting and managing your finances?
Man. those were the lessons that I
Right.
learned in the latter part of my career. I wish I would have learned them sooner. But I used to go into a job and I'm like, okay, this is my day rate, so this is gonna pay this. Like then tomorrow we'll do this, and like oh, and then if I work on next week, then that's all play money. Like I can get this or these shoes or go here
Right.
or whatnot. But because of the inconsistency with the way payments come to a freelancer, it's best to, in my opinion, is always be 2 months, 2 to 3 months ahead. So like I was just saying in that example, like I'm working this, like then I can get this or that. I would say only adopt that mentality if you have 2 months of your bills and payments ahead. But I would also say credit. Credit is your friend. A lot of people are afraid of credit, and credit can help you. Credit can hold you off in between jobs, in between bills, and if you're doing it correctly and you have your utilization properly, your credit will grow, and then your
Yeah.
credit can help you get gear, and then that gear can help pay off credit, and when that gear is paid off, it can pay off things that aren't paid off, and then it can be a snowball success, a snowball effect of success, or it can be a snowball of downfall. It depends on how you use it. But credit I would get into later once you have an understanding and financial maturity. But definitely keep yourself a couple of as as comfortably ahead as you can, and understand how frequent am I working? Do I work a couple of days a week, a day or two a week? Am I working all the time? That will also give you a good gauge of how much you should spend and how much you should save. But yeah, checks, if you can, just in your mind assume that they're not coming until next month.
Yeah. All good advice. And you brought something else that I wanted to talk to you about because you started buying gear a while back, right? So right now, like what are some just name certain gear that you have in your arsenal? What do you have?
I have like the Tilta Nucleus was my first. That was my first buy that actually had an effect. A lot of people, when they come out of college, they have what we call gear acquisition syndrome. And they think like, I could do all this and make all this if I have these pieces of gear. And I can't lie, I spent years
Right.
thinking with that mentality, saving and trying to think that, oh, once I have this, like it'll get me all the work that I need. And it's not necessarily true. Maybe for particular people, or maybe in some areas, but the gear acquisition syndrome can slow you down. I think if you invest in yourself, you're I mean, you can rent someone can rent whatever piece of equipment that you can buy. Someone else is richer, someone else can have it. What you should invest in is yourself. They cannot buy a person. They can't buy an AC with the mentality that they need and the work ethic they need. They can't buy a camera operator with the visual cues of when to zoom in and when to take a wide shot and whatnot. But sorry, I went in a full circle. What was
No,
your
that's
original
all good
question?
because now you're throwing me another question. But as far as the gear, how
Oh,
long
when
was
did I
it until
start?
you bought your first gear? Yeah. How long was it till
Yeah,
you bought your first piece of equipment?
I think that was so maybe about 2 years. 2 years in, 2 years in, I I decided, I came out of adrenaline as a camera operator, and I realized I can't hold this camera for 12 hours. I need to take a step back. And as an AC, you have to know. I mean, you should know how to pull focus. So the
Right.
first thing I got was a wireless follow focus, and that one wireless follow focus, like if we're being transparent, it is super cheap in comparison to the other wireless follow focuses.
Right.
So I was able to get that focus on, and with the rentals that it would make, the next thing I bought was a monitor for it. Because as an AC, there's three things you need. You need wireless video so you can see your image. You need a monitor so you can see the wireless video, and you need to be able to control focus. So the first thing I started off with was a wireless focus, and then I would rent or get from the DP or the rental house the monitor and wireless. And
Mm-hmm.
then once that wireless focus made its money and then started to make profit, I used that money to buy a monitor, and I made sure to buy a wireless monitor as well. And then once those two things were making money, then I was able to buy myself my first DSLR. So it actually took years before I even got my first camera. I actually started with support equipment, and then everything just kind of snowballed. When things are paid off, then they can help get the next thing, and so on. If you choose to put your profits back into your career, or if you want to put them back into savings or into life.
Would you recommend that they do that? That if they go the same route, because I went the same route. I did it little by little because I didn't want to be in too much debt, right? Even though back then when I bought a camera, my first camera package was like $79,000. I mean, it's ridiculous what
Yeah.
cameras were back then compared to now. But putting everything back in because I knew my focus was to grow a company and
Hmm.
myself. You know what I mean? So I had to everything. I didn't even keep any money that the gear made. I just put it right back into buying or paying off. So do you
Yeah.
recommend that to if someone's interested in being a DP or something to buy gear?
I I'm a little split. I'm a little split on that question. If someone's coming out of school and they want to be a DP, I think I think you should have a basic set. You should have enough equipment. If you have access to it, then no. But as a DP, your projects are more valuable than your actual camera is. If you do one good commercial and you have that on your website and your reel, that itself is going to bring in more clients, more money. So that
Yeah.
would essentially be the same as a camera that you think is bringing in more clients or more money. You can definitely, I think majority of DPs don't own equipment, than do own equipment.
Hmm.
So if you're new, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think it's in your best interest to buy a bunch of equipment and try to be a DP, because what you're doing is you're like, hey, I'm fresh out of college. I bought this camera. Hire me for this job. And it's
Right.
like, we don't know what you can do with that camera. How long have you spent with it? How long have you even been out of school? What do you have to show? You're probably better off using the money that you were going to put into that camera into spec projects, or content that can show what it is that you're capable of, because the camera doesn't show what you're capable of. The camera is just what it is. So I think, you know what, I would save that money and I would invest in myself, whether it be spec projects, whether it be seminars, mixers, like ASC classes, Tiffin classes, and there you'll meet other constituents, you'll meet DPs who will say, okay, this if this person is investing in their career and their education,
Right.
many people meet people in these events and get work from it. And
Right.
at the end of the day, getting work is what you're trying to do. So why get a camera to get work when you can make a project that's going to get you work, or get a relationship that's going to get you work?
All good advice. All good advice. Seriously. Because as you're talking, I'm thinking, which way did I go? But now that I think of it, was so long ago, I did the
A
same
little bit of
thing. I
both.
used all. I used well. I used all their gear to make a name for myself. See what I'm saying? So and then
Hmm.
once I became a regular in that position as a DP, then I started buying
You're
gear.
valuable without the gear.
Exactly, and that's a very good point that you made. It's a very very
Some
good point
people are
because
only valuable with gear, and then some people are still valuable without gear.
yeah, very good point. Very good point. I like that. So saying that, I'm gonna switch gears because now you're you're busy, but you're a little different because you're still single, correct? You're not married or anything, right? No kids, no
Dating,
married, right?
dating. So that counts as single, but dating, yeah.
Okay, so dating, balancing work and home life, right?
Hmm.
You know the industry, you know the hours, you know the days. You work holidays, you work weekends, you work nights, you work days. It doesn't matter when you work, right?
Hmm.
Right? How do you in general, how do you manage and maintain a healthy work-life balance?
I don't. That's my secret. I'm just kidding.
Hey,
no,
if you don't, you don't.
no. I think, I mean, as jobs come in, you take what's coming in, and I think your partner has a huge effect on that. If there's someone who's open minded, they understand the industry, they know what it takes. Then you balance and you create your lifestyle outside. I mean, around your career, and then where you can, you mold it back. But luckily for our industry, we choose what jobs we take. If you can't take it, you can't take it. If it upsets your life, it does. But I think having a good support system, whether, I mean, outside of your partner, like your parents, your friends, because you might need babysitters, you might need someone to watch your house, someone to watch your dog, as I'm not married, I'm single, but I would, like, during the pandemic, I was always out. I'd be in DC working on a show in LA, and I'd have to call, like, my aunt who's also in the industry, or a good friend of mine, Chili or Donnie, and I'd say, like, hey, can you go to my house? Can you grab these three Novas and these two 600Ds and send them here, or send this FX9 here, or hey, can you take my dog for a few days? Um, so it's a good support system. A good support system would help. And as far as balance, if you have good friends, they'll let you know when you're too far down the rabbit hole. Like when they tell you, like, you need to take a few days off, or when you find yourself only talking about film, or only sleeping on your days off, and not necessarily socially connecting. You have to um, put your ego aside, and objectively look at yourself and say, like, all right, like, where am I at, on a human level, socially? Like,
Yeah.
am I a workaholic? Been too much in my career? Am I burnt out? Am I addicted? And just take a second and evaluate, and just balance back out.
Cool. So having good friends that are keep you accountable. Let's say, hey, for me, it's my wife. She's like,
Yeah,
it's
your
time to
partner.
back
Yeah,
off a little
yeah,
bit.
your
Yeah,
partner.
she for sure. So I'm gonna give you the final word here. I want you to give advice to the person that's been stuck in the same position for a while and is looking to advance their career. What would you tell them?
Work on yourself and your skill set. I know this person, by the way. Like, I know these people, and not all of them are bad. Some of them just haven't got the break. I would say the biggest thing you can do, if you're beginning, or you're stuck in a rut, the best thing that you can do is accelerate your knowledge base. You're valuable to other people by what you know, not necessarily who you are. People do hire people because they're cool, they're fun to work with, they're good on set, but the more valuable you are in your position, if it's a technical position, if it's artistic, if it's scheduling, the more you know, the better you will do. Whatever your competition is doing, think about, the person that is getting this job. What do they know? Figure what that is, and then learn it. What your superior, if they're a production designer, or if they're an art director, or if they're the DP or the director, and you're the AC, the art dog, whatever it is below the line, you need to figure out what it is that they know, and get your knowledge at that point, so that you can properly assist them. As far as equipment and gear and money, that stuff comes in time. It comes in time, and it comes when you're ready, and when you have the clientele for it. But the biggest, your biggest success will be your knowledge base and your network. So just grow that, and one thing will help bring the other. Like, when you meet people, they'll say, "Oh, call this guy Gabe. He knows a lot about cameras." My knowledge base got me jobs, not the gear. My knowledge base and the network. And then someone else, "Oh, he had all the equipment in the car. Like, he had, we didn't have a Teradek, and he just happened to have an extra one." In that particular case, those will happen, but you have to balance that out with your knowledge base and some luck.
All good advice, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. Seriously, I think our viewers will get a lot of good advice or information from this interview. So thanks again for joining us, and hopefully, who knows, we'll have you back
Yep.
on, depending on what the comments say and everything like that. But thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yep. No problem, Donnie.
All right,
All
Gabe.
right, take care. Later.